Hello, welcome to the Daniels Show. This is going to be our first season. And today I want to bring you some updates on some important, crucial news within our community. First, we're going to talk about the open seats in the Brooklyn Park and the Brooklyn Center area, and those who are actually running for those open seats for City Council and Mayor. And then we're going to talk about the recent news about one of our well-known Liberian pastors who was actually arrested for sexual assaults a few weeks ago. And lastly, we're going to talk about our brother who is actually a board member of the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, Mohammed Dukli, who's in a serious condition right now. It was just updated to a serious condition from critical condition at the U of M hospital right now from being assaulted by one of his students in Minneapolis. First, like I said, we're going to talk about the open seats in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. This is 2018. We have the hottest news, especially around politics. This is the governor race year, meaning Governor Mark Dayton is going to be stepping down. He's not rerunning for election, so the governor's seat is open. However, right here in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, we have few seats that are open, and we have a lot of contestants that are contesting for these seats in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. So for Brooklyn Park, for those of you who don't know, Brooklyn Park is divided into districts. So we have the West District, the East District, and the Central District, and the mayor's seat. For each of these districts, we have one seat open. And this year, the mayor's seat is also up for re-election. Currently, Mayor Jeffrey Lundy is the current mayor of Brooklyn Park. He will be running, he is rerunning for his seat. And Hollis Winston, an African-American brother, is also running against Jeffrey Lundy for the mayor's seat of Brooklyn Park. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have all of them here on GSM TV, the Daniels Show, to talk about whatever it is that they're running for and their platform. And you guys get the opportunity to hear directly from them the platform that they're going to present. So for the mayor's seat of Brooklyn Park, we have Hollis Winston and the current mayor, Jeffrey Lundy. And then for the West District, we have Bob Maida, who is the current incumbent in that seat. He's actually currently the West District representative, Bob Maida. And we also have Winfred Russell, who's running against him for the West District this year. Winfred Russell is a Liberian native who lives in Brooklyn Park, and I believe he actually ran for the mayor's seat a few years ago in Brooklyn Park as well. But he's going to be going against Bob Maida for the West District seat. And then we have the East District seat, and we have Terry Pax. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know of anyone who's running against Terry Pax at the moment, but I believe Terry Pax is the only person who's running, but he's also the current City Council member of the East District. So here you go, Terry. No, you have no one going against you. That's what's up. It's always the best. And then for the Central District, we have Richgett, and I believe he's also rerunning for that seat. And I am not sure on who's running against him. Like I said, I will have more news for you by the time we invite them right here on the Daniels Show to talk to you all and to let you guys know the platform of which they're running on. That's for Brooklyn Park. Now for Brooklyn Center, we have Mayor Tim Wilson, who's up for re-election this year, and he is going to be running against Mark Elliott, who ran 4 years ago against Tim Wilson, and just lost by a few, actually. So Mark Elliott is running against Tim Wilson. Tim Wilson recently just got the DFL endorsement. Mark Elliott actually went for that, but he didn't get it, but Tim Wilson did. And then we also have April Greaves, who's also a city council member. Her seat is up and she's rerunning. And I don't see anyone who's running against her, except the unique thing about Brooklyn Center is all at large. So meaning they're not split per district. Anyone that lives in any part of Brooklyn Center can run or can elect or vote for any of these people who are running, whether city council or the mayor's seat. And then I also believe Dan Ryan, council member Dan Ryan, is also rerunning for his seat. So these are the 3 seats that are open this year. We have the mayor's seat, Tim Wilson, and Mark Elliott is running against him for that mayor's seat. And then we have April Greaves, who's rerunning for her seat. She's a current city council member. And then we also have Councilman Dan Ryan, who's also rerunning for his seat in Brooklyn Center. So that is the updates that you have right now for Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center for the 2018 election. Like I said, this election year is going to be very crucial, whether it's locally or statewide, especially when it comes to our local races. It's very important that people participate, and the governor race as well. Like I said, the governor's seat is up. There are a lot of the list of contestants are long. But again, hopefully we're going to have people here on the Daniel Show talking to you about their platform and why they choose to run. And hopefully you guys can participate and listen for yourself and make the best judgment to go out and vote. Also, we have Eric Paulson, who is the current representative here in our area. Seat is up for re-election as well. You guys remember Eric Paulson and his role in place. We'll talk about that in detail during the immigration, during the fight for DED extension. But Dan Ryan, I'm sorry, not Dan Ryan, Dean Phillips is actually going to be running against Eric Paulson. And again, like I said, they both will be invited here so that hopefully you guys can hear from them directly on their platform and what they hope to bring to the table for the community. Up next, I would like to talk about our brother, Mohammed Doukley. It's a very sad news we heard earlier this week on Tuesday that Mohammed Doukley, who is a teacher's aide, was attacked by one of his students on Tuesday at one of the Minneapolis schools that actually service kids with special needs, especially emotional needs. They service emotional needs students. And when we got the news, he was in a critical condition. But right now, from what we're hearing, his condition has been upgraded to serious condition, not critical anymore. So please send out your prayers to him and try and visit him during necessary times. And he is actually one of the board members of OLM, the Organization of Liberians here in Minnesota. So keep him in your prayers. And also up next, there was this news flooding around the internet recently about one of our pastors, Pastor Freeman, who was arrested on charges of sexual assault for one of his members. That was really heartbroken to see that. Either way, being me, you guys are going to know a lot more about me as we go on. Sexual assault is one of the things that I'm a strong activist for, and it is not acceptable, period, within our community in our day and age. But unfortunately, that came back to our community, to a pastor, and we have to speak the truth, whether it's a pastor or whoever it is. When it comes to sexual assault, we have to speak to it. And I see a lot of different posts on Facebook, people talking about this issue, but eventually the law is going to take its course, and we also lift the victim in our prayers, and also the man of God, if he is guilty, may his sin be forgiven. And we also lift the victim in our prayers. And hopefully the community is giving the victim the much needed support that she's going to need. Next, after our short break, I have with me here a very powerful young youth from the Liberian community, straight from Liberia, actually. He came here. He have been invited to represent Liberia at the United Nations Youth Assembly. And I am lucky enough to have him today on my first show, the Daniel Show, to talk about the Youth Assembly and to talk about his joining here and what he hoped next for Liberia. And I'll actually share with us a little bit about what he presented to the Youth Assembly on behalf of the youth of Liberia. So right after this short break, we will be back with the Daniel Show with Samuel. See you in 20 minutes.
All right, my fellow American geographies. America, do you realize that our country kind of has like a long-lost, estranged African stepson? Yeah, we really need to visit and follow up with him more, because we kind of did, in a sense, create him. I'm just saying.
It's time to learn geography.
Now! Hey everyone, welcome to Liberia, the US's little experimental African resettlement project, and one of the only two nations in Africa that never got colonized.
I beg to differ.
Okay, you tried to colonize us for like 5 years, but that doesn't really count for colonization. In many ways, Liberia is incredibly unique on how it became the way it did. No other African state has their type of story, and it all begins on a little place called the Pepper Coast. Let's begin. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. Unfortunately, my first impression of Liberia came from the movie Lord of War, in which, like most Hollywood movies, portrays Liberia in a complete war-torn mess. On top of that, the whole Ebola crisis happened, which made things even worse, which is why Liberia is like the perfect place to visit right now. I have to ring the Tripster bell once again. Everybody still thinks this place has Ebola, so they try to avoid it, which means no annoying tourist crowds. The exchange rate is amazing. You could potentially have like an entire beach to yourself. People are friendly and like nobody knows about it. It's like Africa's best kept secret. Which I just ruined. Oh shoot. First of all, Liberia is located in West Africa, bordered by Guinea, the Ivory Coast, and Sierra Leone, as well as the Atlantic Ocean to the southeast. The country is divided into 15 counties, with the capital Monrovia, which by the way is named after American President James Monroe, located in the upper west coast of the country. By the way, the flags of the Liberian counties are notoriously famous for being kind of funny looking. CGP Grey does a great podcast explaining how they kind of look like they were made out of Microsoft Paint. We'll talk more about it on Flag Friday. The largest cities after the capital Monrovia are Barnga and Kakata.
There's a place called Sasstown.
The two busiest international airports are Spriggs Payne, which is literally like downtown in Monrovia, and Roberts International in Harbel, which is the airport most people arrive in when flying to Liberia from abroad, even though it's about 25 miles or 40 kilometers away from downtown Monrovia. Otherwise, you might be better off hitching a boat ride along the coast to one of the 4 main harbors: Monrovia, Buchanan, Greenville, or Harper. Those towns sound so American. Greenville, Buchanan. Oh, these guys. Otherwise, some notable places of interest might include the strange rock formations in Sasstown, the giant footprint in Pingyan, the National Museum, Centennial Pavilion, the Sacred Heart Cathedral, the Lofa Rainforest, surfing at Roberts Spot, Sapo National Park, Mamba Point Arts District, the Basa Eco Lodge, Kapatawi Waterfall, and Chimpanzee Island in Marshall. And the best part is, there's like nobody crowding around these places. Hey, Ken.
Yeah?
Go on your phone, go to Skyscanner, check out flights from LAX to Monrovia. How much do flights cost?
Okay, the cheapest flight is 25 hours long with 3 layovers in New York and Togo and Ghana. And coming back, it's gonna be 33 hours long going through Ghana and Ethiopia and Dublin. Tally up the cost of food and accommodation. That brings us to about...
And that's just for one person? Okay, if Geography Now makes a lot of money in the next few months, I'll think about it.
Ooh, can I come?
Yeah, why not?
Can you guys move on to the next segment, please? Some people want to learn stuff.
Shh. Just don't tell me how to do my job. All right? Okay, good. Okay. So anyway, Liberia was originally called the Pepper Coast by the Portuguese when they spotted the Malagueta peppers that grew there. First of all, the country is made up of 3 main physical regions: the flat coastal mangroves and swamps and valleys, the small rolling hills inland, and the tallest peaks in the North Lofa County, where you can find the tallest mountain, Mount Wuteve in the Guinea Highlands. Nearby, the longest river, the St. Paul, comes from the Guinea border, meandering all the way to the Atlantic by Monrovia, where just a skip away you can find the largest lake, Lake Piso, a brackish water lake. Brackish water, what does that mean? Noah, explain.
All right. In the world of water bodies, a body water that contains any level between 0.05 to 3% salinity is considered brackish. In the case of Lake Piso, a small inlet, it connects the ocean, allowing salt to enter.
Awesome, great job, Noah.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, actually, you made a mistake. The longest river isn't actually the St. Paul, it's the Kavala River that goes along the border with the Ivory Coast.
Okay,
Just thought you
no,
should
that's
know.
good enough, Okay, just...
Okay, how about I'll just walk out of frame?
Yeah,
okay, all right.
Yeah. It rains a lot in Liberia. They have a saying in Liberia: by the rain or by the sweat, either way you will get wet. Where have I heard that before?
By the rain and by the sweat.
Right.
You're gonna get wet.
Basically, Liberia has 2 seasons, dry and wet. But even in the dry season, it's still incredibly humid, so you're never gonna be completely dry. Resource-wise, Liberia is kind of like a jackpot country, even though they only have 1 national park, Sapo, the 2nd largest tropical rainforest in West Africa. However, the national animal is, no shocker, the lion. Everybody wants the lion. Even the UK took the lion for some reason, and lions have never, naturally inhabited that area anyway. Speaking of animals, let's address the elephant in the room, Ebola. Ken, was that joke distasteful?
Nah, I'd say you just barely grazed past the boundary.
Good enough! Yes, during 2014, there was an outbreak of the virus with thousands that ended up dying. After months of pretty much quarantining and treating the entire nation, the outbreak was contained, and after passing a 42-day time period, the nation was declared Ebola-free in January 2016 with heightened surveillance. The whole ordeal left Liberia stigmatized and economically shunned. This was not what they needed. Nonetheless, through some smart decisions, they moved forward and continued rebuilding. Unemployment is only at about 3.5%. Exports like timber and rubber are at their highest. GDP growth has overall risen, peaking at 9.4% in 2007, and by 2011 they became one of the fastest growing 20 economies in the world. They even dramatically reduced their external debt through commercial debt relief from 4.5 billion to 222 million. That's like deleting 17/18ths of your debt. That's like Noah deleting my weight and replacing it with this messenger bag. Good for you, Liberia! Granted, they still need to do some work, blackouts are not uncommon, and infrastructure and civil engineering projects are still in progress, but for a country coming out of 2 civil wars and Ebola, not bad. Oh yeah, we usually talk about food. Food! Now, as a nickname hint, Liberians are famous for making their food spicy. They love spice. It's even said that people all over, but especially from the Kru tribe, put small bits of pepper in their kids' noses and mouths to kind of get them to build a tolerance. Alright, that just about covers that. Moving on to my favorite part, The strongest trait for Liberia would have to be its story. It was like an experiment that actually ended up working, then kind of got glitchy, but then rebooted. First of all, the country has about 4.6 million people and is the only African state to have gained independence without major revolt. The largest of the groups in Liberia are the Kapele at about 20%, the Bassa at 14%, the Americo Liberians come in third at around 11%, the Gribo at about 10%, and the rest are made up of most of the remaining 12 tribes, plus a few other non-Africans. They use the Liberian dollar, but accept US dollars. They use the A, B, C, and F outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road, and they are one of the only 3 countries in the world that uses imperial units instead of metric, just like the US and Myanmar.
Yeah, it's just us 3 against the world. We're in this together, guys.
Woo! Even though recently they've considered transitioning into the metric system.
Oh, no, you don't. Get back on over here.
In Liberia, the official language is English, but only about 1/5 of the country speaks it properly. It's more common to hear Liberian colloqua, which is like a mashed up Creole-ish type of language that incorporates words from various tribal languages. For example, pem-pem, biggity, chop, noko, and one of my favorites, Swimara. It's been said that a standard American English speaker can listen really hard and maybe pick it up in about 2 weeks. Well, and they always track extra sounds like o or ya on words. Right-o, not bad-o. Yeah, hello. It's kind of like Singlish with lo or la. Man, Liberia, you guys have a lot in common with Singapore. Like, have you ever met Singapore? Like, here, talk amongst yourselves. Like, yeah, hey, say hi to each other. As mentioned, Liberia has 16 main tribes. Each speak their own language and dialect, specializing in their own unique customs and trades. For example, the Kisi tribe is famous for being rice farmers. The Day are known for being salt traders and carving wood masks. The Bassa are like the people of the forest and they're good at hunting. The Kapele are the largest tribe and they were the tribe that historically became slaves to the other tribes, so there's kind of like that stigma that they don't like having. The Vai are the people from the Mali kingdom that actually created their own script, making it one of the few indigenous African writing systems. The Kru are masters of sailing and fishing. Many work for the Coast Guard. The Mandingo and Gio and Mano tribes are like the Muslim tribes. And the Grebo are great fishermen. Now here's the interesting part. One thing that makes Liberia stand out from the rest of Africa was that the nation, at least in modern times, was resettled by freed slaves that were initially brought from the US and Caribbean in the mid-1800s by the American Colonialization Society. Okay, get ready because I'm about to go into story mode. Basically, if you were a freed slave in the US in the mid-1800s, you had 2 choices. Stay as a disenfranchised individual and hope that over time society would get better for you, or you could take your chances and sail to Africa and create your own society run by you and other freed slaves funded by the US government. In 1822, the first ship set sail, and over 4 decades, over 13,000 freed slaves were returned back to Africa, and an entirely new people group, the Americo Liberians, were formed. Some of whom were mixed-race children of slave owners that had privileged upbringings and educations. It was strange though, because essentially these new African-American colonialists were returning back to the continent of their ancestors, which was completely foreign to them. They didn't initially get along with the indigenous people groups, and for a while clashes and fights broke out. Eventually the Americo Liberians took power as the elite. They built their own infrastructure and government based off of the US system of legislation. They tried to build schools and churches to help integrate the natives, and after decades they finally gave birthright citizenship to the tribes. So in a sense, historically, there's always kind of been like this rift between the natives and the colonialists. Tensions eventually led to the first and subsequent second civil wars in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, caused by natives backlashing against the Americo Liberian elite. Eventually peace deals were signed, the most free and fair elections took place. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, a Harvard-trained economist, won the presidency and became the first female president in all of Africa, and then George Weah was voted in to follow after her. The majority of Liberians, around 85.5%, identify as Christians, mostly Protestant, although indigenous belief systems are also practiced and sometimes synchronized, whereas about 12% are Muslim. Oh, and one more thing, from what I've been told, in Liberia, everyone likes to bluff, flaunting expensive clothes and accessories. They all have like the newest cell phones, even if they live in shanty houses. They even have a word for it, cheeky. Hey, but you know, we're all kind of guilty of trying to show off for making an impression to people. Last of all, a few famous people from Liberia or of Liberian descent might include people like Martin Delaney, Chris Bondi, India Ari, Saren Kaba Jones, Tamba Hali, maybe Oprah Winfrey, Kat Graham, and Louis Gossett Jr. A lot of those people though are like Americans of Liberian descent, but I guess it still kind of counts. Speaking of America and relations with them, Liberia is kind of like that kid playing on the swings that you walked up to on the playground because you wanted to say hi, but then the moment you got 2 feet away from them, they fall off and break their arms screaming in pain, so you're like, oh shoot, Hi, are you okay? First of all, within Africa, Namibia showed huge appreciation for Liberia's support for their liberation efforts and offering Liberian passports to help students study abroad. The Namibian Defense Force also stops by and stations themselves occasionally in Liberia. Sierra Leone and Guinea were like the really close cousins that suddenly got really mad because that one thing that happened in the 80s that they never really forgot. And by that I mean President Charles Taylor. Although issues have settled, they still kind of remember it and hold it against them a little bit. India really started to love Liberia after they gave their full-fledged support for India's stance on the Kashmir dispute. In return, President Sirleaf was invited to India. They struck up multiple export and investment deals in things like engineering equipment, pharmaceuticals, and steel and plastics, which increased India's investments in Liberia by 4 times. When it comes to their best friends though, Liberians always kind of go back to their 1800 roots and say the USA. Sometimes they even call themselves Little America, and the statement, "We will become America's 51st state," has even been a slogan in some presidential campaigns. Many of their former presidents were even born in the US. Even though tensions were built up in the 80s and 90s, the US is still the largest provider of investment and foreign aid, and they still take cultural and diplomatic cues from their stepdad. Overall, the two have a weird but somewhat functional relationship. In conclusion, nowhere else in the world do you find an African nation colonized by African Americans. It's just only in Liberia. Interesting, eh? Stay tuned.
Hello, welcome back to the Danielle Show. As promised, I am here in studio with Wanto Tier Wanto, popularly known as Samuel. Samuel Wanto. He is actually the chairperson of the National Children and Youth Advisory Board in Liberia. Wow. Welcome, Samuel, to the Danielle Show. How are you?
I'm fine.
That's great.
Privilege being here.
Actually, I'm honored. I'm honored that you're here. And actually, guys, I just caught him on his way right back to Liberia. He was here for a visit, correct?
Yeah.
What was that visit about?
Okay, basically, I got family here in the States. And
Okay.
Then, purposely came to attend the 21st session of the United Nations Youth Assembly, which have been done and completed. Then I also had to come and see some of my family members here in the state, and been decades.
Right, right.
And a couple of other stuff too that I also did. So yeah, been a great privilege being here, networking, and then working with so many other things that I had to do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, welcome to Minnesota. How did you enjoy your stay in Minnesota? Did you experience the cold, the snow?
Minnesota is exceptionally great.
Yeah.
Exceptionally great. And, you know, there's a whole new package of environment.
Right.
You know, the first time I came to the state was tentatively in New York.
Okay.
And New York has spared Minnesota. New York is a fast-growing city. Like, everything is faster.
Yeah, definitely.
And then here in Minnesota, you have to, I came out the wrong time where you had to get adjusted to the cool, especially the winter. You found a lot of But it has been exceptionally great, and I had a great time with my family. I had a great time with my uncle, my auntie, the Wonders, and it's been exceptionally good here. Yeah.
That's wonderful. So quickly, wow. So you are the chairperson of the National Children and Youth Assembly Board. Can you just let us know what's the function of that? What does this board do as far as Liberia? What are your responsibilities?
Okay, the National Children and Youth Advisory Board is an institution that was funded by the United Nations recommendation of setting an advisory board in countries around the world that have been countries where violence against children were on the increase, because basically the United Nations were carrying a core study on violence against children from a global perspective. So advisory board was set up in different countries. The board was structured by the Defense of Children International in Liberia, and then also the Plan International Liberia. Over the years, we have created a meaningful platform for young people who have shown and demonstrated that they are agents of change and they are willing to contribute to national challenges. They are willing to contribute and rally effort to be change actors, and who are willing to speak against ills in society, especially in Liberia for case study. So we have worked. Then I've served in my capacity as ombudsperson. Thereafter, I became the Secretary General, and then I was elected as the chairperson of the board. So we got structure, we got country structure. We have had young people representing the board globally. Like we had the former chairperson who spoke at the Education Summit, where headed by Ben Kimon.
And who's that?
Oh, that's Henry Gandia.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
He now works with the Defense of Children International and also serves as coordinator.
Okay.
And we have also had young people at Plain Summit, Plain Gathering. And then one of our greatest achievement and accomplishment as an institution was during the Ebola outbreak, where we began an institution to drive a statistical data of orphans who were affected by the outbreak, because if your parent died during the outbreak, you're stated or substitute to become an orphan. So you don't become an orphan or a semi-orphan. So we work with people that were affected and drafted down the statistics of those that were vulnerable, and those were the issues that were laid out. And as part of our inner sector, within the board, I was also drafted within plan called the Global Voice of Change Project, which I was also connected to. I share these stories. We have about countries, bi-weekly call with countries around the world with Plan Circle. And then we wrote blogs. I wrote a couple of blogs about it. And then at the Global Youth Consultation, I spoke about it, and then at the United Nations, World Humanitarian Summit, I also did a preliminary statement about those work. So the board is effective back then, still now.
That's great. If you don't mind, I would like to ask, how old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
I'm in the 20s.
No, really.
The 20s.
No, really. With your achievement, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Wow. Wow, that's very impressive. That is very, very impressive. Well, that's wonderful to know, and I'm pretty sure Liberia is very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
And hopefully this is not where it ends, right? It continues to
very
go.
much.
Before I get back to, I know you wanted to share a little bit about the upcoming summit and stuff. I just want to have your perspective a little bit. A lot of us here in the U.S., we've heard a lot about issues that's happening back home in Liberia and stuff, and being someone who advocates for youth and who have your country at heart. There are a few questions that I have to ask, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So currently, we just have a new government.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And a lot of us back here, we are dying to know what this new government is about. But I believe our president already answered that question when he said the government is a pro-poor government. So I was wondering, do you, because I'm still struggling to understand what the pro-poor government policies are about, So I am wondering if you know what this means. What is a pro-poor government? What does it mean for youth? And is it good or bad? What's your intake?
I think basically throughout my work, I've always, you obviously cannot distance yourself from the politics. But I think in my works, in my writings, I've always emphasized my desire for civil services, most ambitiously with the United Nations. And then, but then you always find yourself into political discussions, and because for me, everywhere I go, I'm proud of Liberian. And when you are patriotic, nationalistic Liberian, you get involved in the issues that are Liberia-oriented. And I think one of the reasons why we had a transition process.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Transition process is that we needed change.
Okay.
And then because we needed change, and we saw change within the Coalition of Democratic Change, which brought the ascendancy of the current president, this is why we are where we are today. So
what is this pro-poor government?
The pro-poor government, from a basic understanding of policy issues, is about a government that look to revive the current state and income of poor people.
Okay.
And also maintain the state and income of people who are middle class.
Okay.
But it's overly to demonstrate an exemplary desire to change the impoverished state of Liberia to a better economy, better rules, better capital per income, and as well have better educational sectors. We're revamping our system, our health sector, providing better infrastructure, opening the economy to a more, creating robust opportunities that will enhance the development of Liberia. Because as it stands right now, we are in a extremely difficult situation, challenging situation with the human capacity building, our health sector, everything is totally broken down. So I think the proper policy or the proper government or the proper terminology is about changing those extremely challenging situations we found that have people in their state, in their impoverished state.
So, based on your definition of what the proper government is, I have a very simple question. Do you believe this is working, and is it working in favor of the youth right now?
I think one of the most difficult situations being a citizen of a country is to discuss from the onset of a new ascendancy, like we have a government right now.
You're very political. You're very political in your answers. Well, I understand that. Now, I'm going to rephrase my question again. I'm going to repeat my question. And my question is, with the current proper government policy that have been proposed, based on your definition, I understand, I mean, our current president of this government has just been in place for less than 6 months, correct? So I understand we can't really tell if it's working or not. But do you see it working in favor of youth?
I think with the policy statement and with what I've seen with the agenda, what the government look to achieve within a space of years, I'm overly sure if this is brought and achieved with the right mechanism, the right robust plans, and as well as transparency and accountability, we obviously show this government will be a huge success.
Okay.
But like I said,
and it will be good for the youth as well.
Yeah, extremely good. There are a lot of plans. Like one of those things that I'm extremely proud of the government is the empowerment of young people.
Okay.
And I think we have already seen that within a few space of time, the government have appointed a lot of young people. Is there?
So we're not going to go into that conversation because I have a lot of different opinions on that. So, but just for time's sake, though, you have been in the States for a few months now. And you have heard about this Me Too movement that is happening here in the U.S. Pretty much it's about women or people who have been sexually assaulted and coming up and speaking up for once. And also, you know, we've heard a lot of news from Liberia too, where rape is a culture, correct?
Obviously.
Especially, yes. What do you think about this Me Too movement, and how can you connect it, like being a youth advocate, going back home now, how do you think you can connect this with the work that's already being done on ground to stop violence against women in Liberia?
Yeah, I think for being here in the state, I've seen a lot of tremendous happenings in Liberia that I applauded, and I also contributed despite my distance. If I was in Liberia, I obviously would be wholeheartedly excited to join. And that was a case scenario that had to do with like an enterprise, private enterprise called SASH in Liberia, where a girl who shared this story said that she tried going in. They have a policy that has to do with if you are single, you don't enter. And then she was single, and then she refused.
Like a, what is it? What kind of business is it?
It's entertainment.
It's an entertainment business.
Yes.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it's highly segregatory. But in her blog, she wrote, she said, though the policy is there, but people of like, there have been racial discrimination. The whites enter, being single, they enter, and then they are not, the policy don't reflect on all race. So because of that, there was a massive protest, and I think it brought a lot of change, and I contributed as well, changing my status and all those things. But the fight against violence against women, violence against children, it has been a difficult fight, but I think we have achieved progress, but also we are also diminishing the progress that we have achieved over the year. One of it has to do with, I don't know if you ever hear, if you're acquainted with the news that our Senate decided to amend a rape law.
No.
Okay, that was before I came to the state. And because of that, we had a lot of protests against the rape law, because you think Liberia is a country that have a lot of cultural barrier, and I don't have the basic understanding of people, like understanding rape as a serious impediment issue, understanding the empowerment of women and achieving parity as a national issue. And then you had that. It was extremely difficult for us. We protested, but you know, Liberia is Liberia. But I think we can achieve a whole lot from the Me Too movement. When you connect the Me Too movement with Liberia, you look to it as an inspiration for the global fight against sexual and gender-based violence against women in workplaces. The United Nations, for instance, have been one of the important shapes of achieving this. The United Nations had a policy draft that protected victims that were affected from violence. And then also they instituted a bill that has to do with any members or employees of the United Nations, whether you're in a soldier or peacekeeping mission, and you are caught violating a woman or you have been caught in a sexual act, sexual violation, you obviously be penalized despite being with the UN. So
let me get back to this. When it comes to sexual violence against women in Africa as a whole, it has been an issue for a long time. It has been embedded into our culture.
Sure.
Now, currently in Liberia, it is because of that it's so difficult for people to achieve. You know, I respect the Me Too movement, and there's a lot of things on the Me Too movement that we can learn and take back to Liberia, but we also have to be careful that there is a culture there that we cannot implement it exactly as it is in the U.S. in Liberia because of the culture, correct? So it's, I guess my question is, being an advocate for youth, is that something that you would be willing, going back to Liberia, to work with these other advocates who are specifically working on gender-based violence against women, to work with them to bring light to this issue and to stop this?
Well, yeah, I think there are a lot of young people in Liberia, a lot of young people that are working for global sustainable development and localization of global arts and global policies within Liberia. Liberians youth are making tremendous progress of reflecting some of the international, agenda, some of the international changes that reflect globalization. And I think it will be a privilege. I've always said, like, me as a young person, I believe my goal is to work with them, use what they have, contribute, and together we can be able to reflect the changes that we need. And it has been my greatest inspiration in all of my work, all of what I do. And so, like you said, with the Me Too movement, for the next 10 years in the United States, you have been caught with, for an instance, if you have been reported of sexual misconduct, you obviously can recuse yourself. And I've seen this, it demonstrates the basis of maturity. You can obviously find that in Liberia, because we had a case now with a representative in Liberia, and there was an alleged rape saga with a little girl who led to her being led her into serious health crisis, even impregnating her as well. We protested against that case. We had a series of protests. We had a series of talk shows. We had a movement, social media campaigning, and to our dismay, the lawmaker ended his post. He wasn't even called for proper jurisdiction investigation.
So, but this is still my question then. I understand that people are not being held accountable, correct?
Definitely.
In Liberia. So my question is, how can the youth of Liberia now use some of these, campaign strategies here? Because even here for the longest time in the U.S., rape culture have been buried. A lot of these people have not been held accountable. If you listen to some of the cases, it's something that happened years ago.
It's all over the world.
Exactly. So how can you use what have been used here with the Me Too movement to actually bring these things back, even though they've happened many years ago and it was covered? How do you use some of these campaign strategy back in Liberia to hold these people accountable?
That's what I said. Like I said before, a lot of young people in Liberia are reflecting these changes. And one basic way, the primary way to achieve this goals is that we need to be vocal on issues. We need to speak out. We need to advocate when there is error. We need to bring these cases to the media.
And do you believe social media is a key?
Oh, definitely. When we campaign, like I talked about SARS was just a social media campaign, and they achieved the maximum.
Okay.
And I think there have been a lot of campaigns on social media that we have achieved maximum in Liberia. And I think if we reflect these changes, like I said, being vocal, bringing these issues, following these issues through code and jurisdiction processes that we can obviously achieve that. We have the instrument, we have the children law for that instance. If it concerns a child, we have the domestic violence law, we have the Liberian Penal Code, then we also have series of law. When the constitutional library could be used as a case study in Ghana. And the United Nations Convention Against the Discrimination of Women, we could use that as an international agreement and protocols because it's ratified in Liberia and Liberia is signatory to it. So those are all instruments we can use as young people and be vocal and follow these proceedings. And I think the government of Liberia also, need to build on the minimum success that we had, though it wasn't at the maximum point, to provide a space where women can be respected, where women can be empowered, where women's rights and privileges can be endorsed with full constitutional backing and full jurisdictions from court proceedings.
Well, like I said, this is a whole different issue that we're going to tap on later. But here, I see there's an upcoming youth assembly coming up. Can you please take at least 5 minutes going through that, you know, I believe other young Liberians here in the States can also benefit from this. If you can just take a quick 5 minutes to go over what that is, and then we can end this interview, and then I'm going to be coming back to talk more on the sexual assaults and Me Too movement and how this is going to impact our community as well.
Oh, great. And I think we have had a lot of important discussions. I'm extremely grateful for the privilege of being here. And like I said, the Youth Assembly have been one of the most important programs that have globalized young people around the world understanding key issues. And I've been privileged as a Liberian to be awarded as the first ever Friendship Ambassador Foundation scholarship, which allowed me to attend the 21st session, the 20th session, and as well as speaking and addressing global young people from all around the world, 102 countries, being awarded within the prestigious General Assembly Hall. So this year, we have been campaigning because I think the only way we can achieve young people being empowered is to understand and build our capacities on issues that are necessary. So we've been campaigning to have young people attend this forum. The next assembly will be in August. And the assembly application started May 1st. We've been working with young people in group chats, and we have received our first ever Liberian registration package, where we have the Liberian group registration package and as well as conference only. So we are campaigning not only for Liberians in Liberia, Liberians in here in the diaspora that have been vocal on issues, that have also been demonstrating that they are agents of change and they are very, very much passionate about the United Nations, the Sustainable Development Goals, and they want to meet other young people and understand what they are doing and achieving in their country. So we are reaching out to them so that they can apply, so that we can have a Liberian population that will be able to be empowered by this conference. So the conference has a core package. The core package is because the conference is in New York, the date of this conference is the 10th to the 13th of August at the United Nations in New York. So the core package for this conference is 1,600, which means you will have the assembly covering your hotel and as well as your feeding and transportation to conference venues. With cruise night, United Nations guided tour, permanent mission visitations, and as well as an official certificate for the program. But if you think you can cater to this for yourself, you can just apply for the conference only package, which you only pay $215. And when you pay the $215, you obviously get a conference registration. If you apply from now to the 30th of May, that's an early bird space. You get some of those things that are within the core package slot. And you can achieve a whole lot because Friendship Ambassador Foundation, they organized this conference that have had it 21 times within the span of years. And having it for the 22nd time have made a lot of progress reaching and enriching young people around the world. So I think as Liberian, it's important that we have Liberia at this conference. And I'm reaching out. You can contact me on Facebook. I could talk more about this process with you. I could share the link with you. You apply, and hopefully we can be empowered by this conference.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, it's the election year. I cannot afford to go anywhere around August. It's the governor race. We're going to be very active in that, so I cannot be there. But
hopefully you get joined in subsequent conference time.
we'll see. But this year is definitely a good year for me.
in Minnesota.
Well, so we can
Librarians
share.
here
We can
in
share
Minnesota,
that list.
librarians in Liberia, librarians all around America. We're reaching out to you to be part of this conference. It's important for us, and I think we're also reaching out to the governor of Liberia. Upon reaching Liberia, my goal is to be able to engage stakeholders to support accepted Liberians. Reaching out to the president of Liberia, the minister of foreign affairs, the minister of youth and sport, all of those auxiliaries and stakeholders in Liberia to support Liberians so that they can gain the knowledge that all of young people around the world have gained from this conference.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the information. Hopefully, you can share that link with me and we can put that on there and people can register. That's a pretty heavy fee, so hopefully there can be a scholarship that people can, apply for to be able to take care of that fee. But, well, thank you for appearing on the Daniel Show. It was my pleasure.
Me too.
And you have a good one. We are going to come back in like the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. Well.
You know why I do not question your sovereignty. You know why I do not question your power. You know why I do not question your majesty. You know why, you know why, you know why.
In 2016, Miti Che visited Liberia. During her visit, she discovered a lot of things. One of the most shocking discoveries that were made was that the children were in desperate need of help. There were children without food, clothes, and some even without water. When Miti Che went back to America, she decided to take action and started the program MCAP. With the help of God and her supporters, she was able to send back items for the kids. Some of these items included things such as clothes, medication, and school supplies, as indicated in this video. The distribution took place February 11th in Bentown, Liberia. Former president and philanthropist Nelson Mandela believed that education is the key to changing the world. He said, and I quote, "Education is the most powerful key, is the most powerful weapon as well to changing the world." Our mission is to provide the kids in Bentown, Liberia who are less fortunate with an education, accompanied by providing meals and water for these children. We want to eliminate starvation and create opportunities for our future generation. We strongly believe that we can make an impact and a difference. With your help, we will be able to provide these kids with clothes, food, water, and an education, along with a clinic as well. Thank you.
You know why I do not question your sovereignty. You know why I do not question your power. You know why I do not question your majesty. You know why, you know why, you know why.
Welcome back to the Daniel Show, and thank you, Wanto T. Wanto, for joining me on my first show to share with us the information that we need for Liberians to participate in the upcoming Youth Assembly program with the United Nations. We had a little bit of conversation, just so you guys know. Like I said, as we continue on the Daniel Show, you will get to know a little bit more about me. I am an activist. I am a community organizer here in the Northwest suburbs, and I work for the Minneapolis Regional Labor Federation. So, of course, I care about working people, and I care about economic justice. I was actually a victim of sexual assault at a very young age, so I take that very seriously, especially within our community. Sexual assault is an issue worldwide that a lot of women are suffering from, that have been through gender inequality. It's a serious issue. However, if you are from West Africa, you will understand that we have some culture barriers that haven't changed the culture against women when it comes to gender inequality, especially sexual assault. So I'm very worried, and I am one of those people who are willing to take this fight on here within our community here in the U.S. and also back home. We get a lot of different news from back home in Liberia about rape and the perpetrators going scot-free. Are we going to continue this culture here in the U.S.? And I know I have learned a lot from the Me Too movement, and to see how social media and the general media have contributed a lot to actually holding accountable these people who have been found guilty. And hopefully we can use this in our community and back home. There are a lot of recent incidents and happenings that's happening around sexual assaults, even within our community. We have this show of sex videos everywhere on the internet, especially when it comes to the Liberian community. It's about time that stopped, because each time these things happen, we may just see them on our feed on Facebook, people talk about it, but there are trails of victims that are left behind from these acts. So this is something that we are going to be speaking on a lot, and I'm going to be bringing folks here who are working on this issue here in Minnesota and here in the U.S., some advocates on sexual assault, to talk to us about how this conversation can be held within our community. And I know there is a forum coming up at Brooklyn Park City Hall. I will get you the date once that is solidified, around sexual assault here within the Brooklyns. Also, quick announcement, June 2nd, I facilitate a table called the Northwest Suburbs Coalition. What we do is we bring together different organizations and community activists and community members, union organizations who are doing work in the Northwest Suburbs area. We bring them together on the table and we do different work together, which I can tell you more about later. But that group, in collaboration with Ansablea, which is a Latino-based organization, and ACER, which represents the African Career Education Resource, Inc., is coming together to host a neighborhood organizing training on Saturday, June 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And this training, we're going to offer you lunch and all that stuff. This is very crucial for a lot of people who really wants to get involved. I see a lot of people during the Ebola time, during the immigration fight, the school board. A lot of people reaching out to me, the election in 2016, I want to get involved. How do I get involved? It's great if you want to get involved, but this is a free training being offered to actually educate people on how to get involved in your community, how to properly organize, why we organize, and how to organize in an area that is a majority of people of color, and to successfully do that. So I would highly encourage people who are looking to get involved within their local communities and their community organizations to come to this class, to this training. Actually, it's going to be very, very helpful. There's a lot of work out there. We need a lot more youth to get involved, to get active in these work that are happening. It's 2018, like I said. This is going to be a tough year for Minnesota. Who becomes the next governor is very crucial for us, as a lot of policies that are pending that are actually bad for people, whether it's people of color, working class people, could be passed based on who becomes the next governor of this state. So it's very important that we get involved, door knock, and not just the governor race, but also local races are also very important. As far as immigration as well, we need to elect progressive folks who are going to actually help our immigrants community, help our working class folks, and speak on behalf of the everyday working people like you and I. So please, June 2nd, this is going to be held at the Brooklyn Park Library of Broadway. And it's free from 9 a.m. Breakfast is going to be provided, and lunch is going to be provided at 12, but it's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please show up to this training. And after the training, we are going to have a lot of different activities to plug you in so you can get started and get going and get your head in the game this 2018 election and start to do issue-based organizing, neighborhood organizing, and hopefully we can have another new activist on our list that's going to be moving and shaking things here within our community. And also, last but not the least, I believe last weekend, community members gathered at the Ebenezer Church to celebrate the life. I will hate to say to sympathize, because he was a good man, and he is a good man, of Pastor Goa. This was last Sunday. However, if you would still like to contribute and reach out to the family, please reach out to LMA, which is the Liberian Ministers Association. You can reach out to Father Wilson. If you already have his information, other information will be provided. Reach out to them and donate whatever you can. Reach out to the family and just give them some word of comfort, because we have lost a great person within the community. This brings to end the Daniel Show for today, and I hope you have learned a lot from this show. Again, I want to thank my guest, Wanta T. Wanto, all the way from Liberia. He's actually traveling back tomorrow, and he agreed to come on the show today. I want to thank him so much for appearing on the show for the first time. And until I see you again, which will be in the next 2 Fridays, you have a wonderful weekend.